Parenting is hard. It can also be rewarding, but getting through the grind to the good stuff can be a real struggle. And all of us could use some inspiration, encouragement, or just a reminder that we aren't alone on this journey. Sometimes even parents need a timeout.
Hey parents, I'm Kim Botto. Welcome to Parents Time Out. And this is the time during the week where we just stop and maybe catch our breath and sit down and we learn from other experts, other parents, and share ideas because we know that parenting is done best in community. And in the midst of this year, 2020, with COVID and social distancing and working from home, we're finding that more and more people, I know I am, are feeling isolated and that we don't have the relationships that we used to have. So tonight, we're going to talk about mentorship. That might feel like a really big word to you, but really what it is we're just going to talk about how do you as a parent find other people maybe a little bit ahead of you on the journey to build into you. And how do you, no matter where you on the journey, maybe you find somebody that's a little bit behind you, not intellectually, but behind you as far as maybe they don't have kids yet. Maybe they're newlyweds that you can build into. And for us to do this tonight, we have some special guests. We have two couples. We have Joe and Lindsay Budde and Erin and John Giltner. Hey guys. How are you?
Hi.
Okay, here is everybody.
Hey.
So Erin and John, I've known Erin for a long time. She was just a cute little kid, and she's married to John, and they have a little guy, Michael, and gosh, you're due in December, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so she's 7 months pregnant with a little girl.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And Joe and Lindsay have 3 boys and a son, and they have known Erin for a long time also. And once Erin and John got married, you guys started really building into them as a couple. So what would you like to tell us about yourselves? Just a quick little fun fact about yourself. Anything I missed?
Nothing you missed. Big game people.
Yeah.
Competitive.
Yeah, good at euchre. That's what we would always play.
Yeah, we played a lot of euchre.
That's right. You guys are game people. I love game people. I love to play games. So why don't we, as people are hopping on, we're getting ready to go into the winter. And I know a lot of people are dreading it. You know, the shorter days, the colder temperatures where we can't get out. So let's be positive. What's something that you guys are looking forward to this winter? And if you're watching, we'd love to hear from you. What are you looking forward to this winter?
Well, one thing our family. Oh, go ahead, John.
Kind of already mentioned it for us. We're big game people. We love board games, card games, anything of that sort. So staying inside isn't always the worst thing for us. We enjoy that.
What's your favorite game?
Ooh,
Settlers
of Catan, maybe.
I'm a euchre fan. Probably euchre or wizard.
Balderdash is a relatively new game that we have at our house, and it's super fun for adults too. Okay, good. So John and Erin are going to be playing games and having a brand new baby. Joe and Lindsay, what are you guys going to be doing this winter that's fun?
Well, we go skiing every winter, which is really fun, and so that's definitely something that we're looking forward to. It's already COVID safe with your face covered all, face covered up. So we're looking forward to that. Hopefully, feeling normal this year, and I'd say our kids are probably looking for it. We always pull the cars out of the garage and we give them space to set up a whole little scooter, bike, rollerblade, whatever they want to do in the garage. So they like that of the winter.
Oh, that's fun. So the season where most people are putting their cars in the garage, you guys are actually taking your cars out of the garage so your kids have a new space to play in.
It's a big sacrifice, but we do it. So.
Nice. No, that's good. And I want to say, you talked about skiing. I'm hearing a lot of parents that are saying they're investing in cold weather clothes to get their kids ready. So when the cold weather comes, their kids can get outside and have fun.
Yeah. I've heard it said there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad wardrobe. So You can go outside.
I
in any
like
weather.
that. No such thing as bad weather, only bad wardrobe. That is so good. Okay, we have Annie Blankenship. She just said she loves Settlers too. We have the expansion pack at my house. So yeah, we're big Settlers fans. Okay, so we're going to talk tonight. You guys, so before John came into the picture, Joe and Lindsay, you knew Erin. And then Erin got married. And then the two of you started meeting together. How did that even start? Or it was more than just you guys hanging out as friends? How did it turn into a more formal relationship?
Yeah, so we can jump in there just because John and I, we had been married for about a year, and we had a lot of fun in marriage, and it was a good year, but we've figured out that it really wasn't very focused. It didn't feel as intentional, and we, I knew Lindsay and Joe from church and they were involved in kids club. So I kind of knew them from afar, and they just were doing life really well. And we were like, okay, they have a lot of stuff that we want. So we invited ourselves over and said, hey, can we get together? And we were pretty blunt in the first meeting, like, hey, you guys are doing some stuff that we really like. Can we just hang out with you and see how you do life and learn from you?
Now, John, how was that for you? Because you didn't know Joe and Lindsay that well, right?
Yeah, not as well. And I hadn't really had many mentoring relationships outside of kind of typical older brothers and dad and things like that, which are all great. But it was intimidating for me to reach out to someone, another couple that I didn't really know as well. As Erin said, we identified some things that we really liked about them. But it was a little bit of a leap of faith, and it certainly turned out well.
And that's vulnerable to go into somebody and say, hey, we want you to guide us. So Joe and Lindsay, John and Erin come to you and they say they want you to be their mentors. What is that like for people who are watching? What does that even mean? That somebody wants you to mentor them?
We didn't really know the first time they asked either. I think that's where we should start, right?
They were so sweet in their asking, though. It was incredibly humbling, and we were extremely honored. We were sort of like, wait, what? But at the same time, we were like, we got it in some way because we felt like we had in our past sort of done the same thing. And I don't know if we definitely weren't as intentional with as much forethought as Erin and John had in really seeking it out. I sort of feel like it was by accident for us, but we saw the same thing. We had a couple that they had 3 kids, and we felt like, oh my gosh, I love how they parent. And we didn't have any kids yet. We were newly married, and it was the same type of thing. We just found ourselves wanting to hang out with them more often and learn from them. And we wanted to have them over to our little apartment and cook dinner for them or babysit their kids. And we felt like we learned so much from them. So then when John and Erin came to us, we felt like, oh, they actually know what they're asking for. And whereas we didn't, but we did feel like we knew that we'd experienced what they were looking for as well.
So both of you have said, as you're looking for people to kind of guide you, you're just looking for somebody who's doing parenting or marriage or life in a way that is attractive to you and that you'd like to have your life look more like that. And I think something that's important, even if you don't know them that well, Lindsay, you talked about just inviting people over for dinner. You don't have to ask them to enter into a lifelong relationship with you. You can just ask them over for dinner. And maybe over dinner, you'll find, oh, this could be a great relationship. Maybe over dinner, you decide, not so much. So what advice would you give for people who are maybe like John and Erin were, a year into marriage, and they're going, oh, we need somebody ahead of us in the game. You guys, what would you say to people? What should they do?
I like that question because it kind of prompts this question of your own heart. Like, what is it that I want? And I think at the very onset, what we're really asking for is relationship or friendship. And I had a mentor once who actually told us that the best way to be a friend is to be an inviter. So I think, Kim, when you were mentioning, and Lindsay, you said host people for dinner or just get together with them, like that's where the relationship can happen. So I think if you're interested in that, I know for us, the big thing that changed the game on that was being the inviter, even when you didn't want to be, right? I think it's easy to go home and close your garage and go inside, but being an inviter and an includer is really helps those relationships start.
And that's what John and Erin did. Like they were inviters, and it was awesome. And we were just sort of busier, I think, with our kids, but John and Erin were, when can we get together? And we loved that because we felt like we knew that they wanted this relationship. And so it was, being the inviter.
Good. John and Erin, do you have any
advice? The one thing, just getting outside of your comfort zone and really being bold, because I feel like we both could go on and on about what we learned from Lindsay and Joe. Some of it very intentionally with content that they taught us, and some of it they don't even know, but we remember just the way they parented or the way they loved their kids. And so I just think it will have a forever effect on us. So we're grateful. So.
Yeah. And so I always say, so parents, if you're watching, invite somebody, just invite them. Doesn't have to be in a lifelong relationship. Invite them for coffee or to meet you on the porch, being how we're in COVID, or a park. And then, Erin, you're right. Just be bold. Because one thing I found, a lot of times we'll think, oh, they're too busy. I mean, Joe and Lindsay have a whole house full of kids. They're too busy. But Joe and Lindsay, you said you were honored when they asked you. So ask. Kimberly has a question. She said, did you guys go through certain books?
Sometimes I remember Joe, for like you guys had some Tim Keller questions and we would work through. So sometimes we did do intentional content. Sometimes we just came to them. We're like, hey, we're trying to lead this group. We don't know what we're doing. Can you help us? We'll talk through steps, or in our marriage. So we would come with questions, and they would also come with, hey, here's what we're learning. But I think one of the best benefits that we got was just seeing them do life. For example, one of my favorite stories is, I remember Parker, he was 4 at the time, and he was like doing a headstand on the couch. And Joe, instead of reprimanding, he said, hey, Cooper's following your lead, because the 2-year-old started doing the headstand. And then Joe said, hey, how can we be a good example for your little brother? And it's like, oh, okay, those are the types of small things that they didn't intentionally teach us, but we just got the benefit of learning. Okay, that's what leading and having a vision for your kids looks like. And so we didn't have kids at the time, but it still benefits us now. So sometimes we did content, sometimes we did it, but a lot of it was just seeing how to do life, and we're so grateful.
Well, and that's so good, because I think so often we think it's going to be this super structured time. But when I talk to people, I think the most successful relationships where people are learning from each other is when you're just thrown into the middle of it. You're helping wash dishes, you're helping change diapers, you're helping at bedtime. And sometimes there is, it's the right thing to do to sit around and read a book and talk about that book. But it's really just doing life together. And really, that's the way early on in the Bible, that's the way relationships look like. They came in and they lived with them and worked beside them and learned how they live life. Do you want to say something?
I think it really has to be a willingness to be intentional with your questions. And even if it's just conversation, being willing to dive in and ask the tough questions, or so what's the biggest surprise you faced in your marriage in your first year? Just because then all of a sudden those go into big, deep discussions as opposed to just sort of the surface level. So there is an intentionality, even if it's not with a book or material, but a willingness to really dive deep into deep discussion and be open and vulnerable in your conversations.
Okay, so what are some of your best questions to go deep instead of just surfacey?
I think
I gave the surprise. Like, what's been a surprise to you, or what has been most, like, what were you not expecting, or what's been, and always when you hit them with a challenge, like, what's been your biggest struggle? What's been your biggest challenge? That's just deep right there, right?
And I think the other thing, just as simple as what's your high or your low, either for the week as a couple or in your personal life or what have you, and whether you're doing that with friends like John and Erin or your own kids. I think those are great questions you can ask to kind of help motivate and stimulate good conversation that gets a little deeper than talking about the game or what's going on that week.
Hello is always a good one. I have a friend who she'll ask me, where are you growing, where are you stuck, and where do you need prayer? And, we want to talk forever, and I'll be talking about mindless stuff like TV shows or my favorite taco at Mazunte. And she'll go, oh, that's great. So where are you growing right now? Where do you feel like God's really like, oh, we just went deep. So Erin and John, what kind of questions do you find really help the conversation go deeper?
Yeah, things just like that. And I can't think of a particular instance, but, approaching those conversations with humility and just understanding that, we were relatively newlyweds and we had a lot to learn. So like Joe said, the highs and lows and understanding where we just wanted to understand more about how we could grow together. Mm-hmm. And it just takes, humility on both of our parts to go into it and have this just receiving mindset. I think that went a long ways for us.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's big too. And we were, like Lindsay said, we were just vulnerable. That's what was going on that week. That's what we would mention. And Lindsay and Joe did such a good job of empathizing and sharing. Oh yeah, when we were first married, we had this closet, and we would always say, "Let's competition in the closet" or something like that.
Right.
but the empathy of understanding, okay, these are some of the things that work there, and hey, here's some tools that worked for us. Give them a shot, and for us to. I feel like that's where we had some cool game changer moments with our marriage that were really fun, and with parenting now as parents.
Yeah, and when you talking about,
that's good memory.
So tell me, what about the closet?
We just had this walk-in closet in our apartment that was like we would always end up fighting in there and like working it out, and we told John and Erin that it was like our hash it out spot. That's so funny. I was proud. You remember?
John and Erin, what's the hash out spot at your house?
Ooh, do we have one?
It's all over. Where were we happen to be in the moment?
Maybe you need to find one. But I like what you said as far as Joe and Lindsay would empathize and they would listen to you. And I think a lot of times people feel like if they're the mentor, they need to have these profound answers. And it's really not about fixing the people that you're mentoring. It's about helping them discover maybe where they need to go or the path. We have a question from Annie. How did you set expectations or goals for each couple?
I think expectations came back to just, hey, we're grateful for the friendship. We want to get to know you guys more and learn. Goals probably came back to when we were challenged, like, hey, try this, or, okay, what's your family vision? What are you guys going to do to get there? That type of thing. I remember having those sorts of conversations, which are still ring true to how we live life now. One expectation I would recommend for people who are being mentored is to figure out a way to serve. Joe said it really well the other night. He said, you help create capacity for the people that are building into you. So for us, when Lindsay and Joe would put the kids down, we would do their dishes. Really, we did the dishes just because we were grateful. We wanted to show our gratitude. But in turn, I really do think that serving physically set our spiritual heart ready for receiving and learning more. So I think if you're going into a mentorship and you're the mentee, figuring out a way to serve and create capacity for the mentors is huge. So set that expectation for yourself as the mentee is what I would say.
That's really, I never had. Yeah, you're creating capacity for the people who are then building into you. So it ends up benefiting you and benefiting them. Talking about expectations, we have a question from Ivy, which I think ties into that, is how frequently would you meet up? And did you, at the beginning, once you established you wanted to have this ongoing relationship, like, did you set, we're going to get together this many times, it's going to be this length of time?
Well, I think we just generally have the normal rhythms of our lives where we have dinner every night together, and especially on Sundays, we try to do a family thing. And so we just said, hey, John and Erin, this is something we do already that you can come join us for. And they just happen to do our dishes afterwards.
We never said they had to.
I know. Totally grateful. And they played with the kids when they got there. So it was great. I was having a great time. But I think that was what was really helpful. It wasn't another soccer practice. It wasn't another soccer game. It was, we're already doing this thing. Hey, come with us. And even if we did have, our kids were young at the time, But even if we did have a soccer game, we could have said, John and Erin, hey, come with us to the soccer game. Because doing real life where you are and what you're already doing is how you can integrate people of different ages into it. If they have older kids, they can come do the little kid stuff. If they have younger kids or no kids, they can come do the bigger kid stuff. And I think that's where you can hit it.
Yeah.
Did you have a set rhythm of how frequently you met?
In the beginning we did, and then we would kind of reset expectation based on John's schedule because he's in med school. Yeah. So it would we'd have season where he was in surgery. It was like that rotation was crazy. And then he had another season where he was in ophthalmology, so we could come over, a couple times a month, or at least that's what,
Yeah, so it varied from, once a week at times to, once a month when things were crazy. But even when we weren't meeting, we were still keeping tabs. We still felt like there was a good relationship that was being built throughout everything.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It never felt like work or a burden. It felt like a friendship, but it was just an intentional. So, these questions about the sort of the format or the process, it's hard because I know that we want that. And like lots of times that's the easy way to set something up. But I think when you click with someone or a couple that you feel like you can, like Joe said, just do life with or serve, and it's not, and create capacity for it. It just lended itself to an easy relationship that didn't feel like, oh shoot, we haven't met with John and Erin. It did never feel like that, or like something we had to check off a list. It just felt like they were a couple who we loved and we loved pouring into whenever we could. And
I think then over time we ended up moving from like doing dinners to actually doing actual formal studies, and that's just because we were going to host it, and you guys came along, right? So
it just worked into our life. It just kind of the orbit of you all around us just kept playing out over and over as we did different things. Well,
you would say you adjust as your life stage changes, as the seasons change. You mentioned, Joe, that you did some more formal studies. Was there a particular study that you would recommend to somebody if they're in a mentoring relationship?
That's a good question.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead, Kim.
No, go.
I was just going to say the one we all did together was actually Storyform Life, and we just found that is a great study to just really understand who God is and the story He's written in His writing about His creation. So,
and it was so instrumental in our family and what we do and the vision we have for our family, and so we feel like that's one we always share with people that we want to pour into, because that's what pours most into us, I feel like.
Yeah, Storyform Life's a great one. It's one, though, where you need somebody who's a trained facilitator to lead you in it. So if anybody's watching and you have a great book that you've done with another couple, go ahead and throw that in the questions. And we've got a great question from Katie. Crucial, are you inviting other races into your circle and showing your kids diversity? And if so, how'd you navigate that? And I know Erin and John, you guys are doing that.
Yeah, I mean, so that I would say first off, the big thing there is to pray for that, to pray for those people to come into your life, and to because I love that question. I love that's something to be striving for. And yes, those are some difficult conversations that we've had. And I would say what was crucial for me there is to find a mentor, Cameron Smedley. He was on actually go back to that Parent Time Out. That was a great one. But anyway, that was an example of a mentor who was in my life for a very specific reason, very specific period of time. But yeah, and I would say too, even thankfully with the relationships that I've had in some of those mentorships, race was not a new topic. And then, so engage in those topics right away, because that's something that God's heart is really, really passionate about, is finding restoration there. So, I think I love that you're asking that question. And yes, that's something that we've engaged in. And I would encourage you to continue to learn yourself and to, learn from other people. Because I've probably learned more from them than they've learned from me. I can guarantee that. But,
and so
conversations.
In the case of Cameron Smedley, he was a guest on Parent Time Out a couple months ago. Like, did you know him well? Why did you call him? He's an African-American dad.
Yeah. So I didn't know him terribly well. He was someone part of the Crossroads Anywhere team. Someone connected me to him, and so he started to build into me and gave some recommendations and had some good conversations. And I'm just really grateful for him.
Good. Okay, we have a question from Karen Gerke, and she says, you're probably not there yet. Oh, and Katie, thanks. That was a great question. Karen says, you're probably not there yet, but how would you handle it if your kids don't get along and now the relationship requires a new level of intentionality?
That's a really great question. It's a hard one but it's a really real one. And I don't know. I think I wish I had a better answer than feeling like if it's not a working relationship, then it's not healthy for probably more than just the kids in there. Like, I think that if the kids aren't getting I think if the kids aren't getting along, there's probably other things there that it's not just the kids aren't getting along. There's probably I don't know. I'm probably butchering this question.
I think for me, the most beneficial relationships in a mentorship, friendship sort of a thing where I'm trying to learn from another dad who's doing these things really well is when they are at the next stage from me. And so if John and Erin with little ones ask or want to seek from me, or I want to seek from fathers who have older kids, I think the relationships in those stages are different between the kids because there is that gap. Mm-hmm. I think that's where the value can be, because even when a mentor we had long ago comes back and visits and we grab Chinese food from their favorite Chinese food place, they bring their adult children with them.
Yeah.
And their adult children play with our kids, and that's their favorite part. And they've got great memories of that day about flying paper airplanes and things. And so I think that can help.
Yeah.
But you're right. The same age group is.
So I think the same age group kids is hard because it sort of prohibits it from being a real mentor relationship, like you're saying. Like, I think with the different age, because then not only are the adults mentoring the adults, but the kids get that opportunity to mentor other kids, and you see how they're working. So I think that the challenge, if there's conflict in the group, I think it can prohibit a lot of healthy mentorship from happening. And
there is an opportunity there to step into it in those cases and really have those hard conversations to say, why isn't this working? Because then what happens in the midst of that challenge is intimacy and relationship occurs between the two families. And even if the answer becomes, this isn't going to work for us as a relationship, there's still mutual respect because you entered into that challenging conversation. So even though it's hard and even though it might not work out, still having those hard conversations can really be beneficial on both sides.
Yeah, we have 5 kids, and not all of our kids get along with all the people that we hang out with. Mm-hmm. And Joe, I totally agree with you. If you want to invest in that relationship, then having a conversation with that other couple, and sometimes you can even bring the kids into it. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's something going on with one of the kids that's causing them not to get along with anybody, not just your kids. And so then we can partner with those other parents and even practice some scenarios about sharing if they're little or sharing if they're 16. I think that's a great idea to talk to the other, to work it out with the other couple. We've got a question from Joseph on what advice or criteria do you have for choosing a mentor?
Good question. I think it's for us. It was finding someone who's a little bit further along than we were. Mm-hmm. When we were newlyweds, we were looking for someone who had young kids because we knew we were going to be parents soon. As we're looking for mentors now, we look for someone with just older kids, someone who has a little bit more wisdom, who has that you can tell that they're doing things the way that you would like to do them.
Yeah. And
That's good,
like
yeah.
those people that you enjoy, like we just like Lindsay and Joy, it was just easy and fun, so nothing felt forced. It was just, we just hung out. So we were friends that we happened to get to learn a lot from. So that's the only other thing I would add, people that you enjoy.
Yep.
That's really important, Erin, because I have had people say, I know I could learn so much from this couple, but oh man, I just don't like spending that much time with them. I'm like, well, then they are not your people.
No,
Like,
exactly.
find somebody you enjoy being with. That's great.
Yeah. And I think it's super important that they're down the line from you in parenting. It's so much in our culture, you're told that you have to always hang out with people at your same life stage. And I don't discount the value of that. We have lots of friends who are in our same life stage, and it helps you not feel alone. And those are valuable friendships, but to step into looking at someone who's ahead, it lets you get out of the moment where you just like, this is your life and this is what you're in. And it allows you to look down the road and see a vision and see like, oh, they went through this potty training thing, but look at their kids now. And I want that. And I think that when you can look and see, and it's just really helpful for me, who I often get in my day to day, and to be able to look down at families that I look up to and see their kids. I'm like, one day my kids are going to be that. And I want that kind of relationship with my kids. So I want to learn from them. And,
That's right. Well, you guys, this has been great. We're at the end of our time. So does anybody have any final thoughts they want to share with the parents who are watching?
I do. I think.
Go ahead, Joe.
All right. Thanks, John. I would just say, if you see someone doing something as a parent that you really like, ask them about it. Mm-hmm. Ask them why they do that. Ask them what motivated them in that moment, and learn about it, because those are the things that you can take home and change in your own life.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And what I was going to say is that, mentorship and being mentored and having those relationships is so powerful. I know for Erin and I, when we're really invested in a relationship like that, we just have this momentum that keeps going, and it builds on itself. You pour yourself out to other people in different ways. You just find different ways that God's working in your life. So I encourage everyone to take a bold step and figure out how to get into a relationship like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that is a great thing to close with, John. Take a bold step, be invitational, invite somebody to your life, and find somebody that is behind you in their life stage and invite them into. I will say I have gained so much by having people that I'm connecting with. And if you're newlywed, or maybe you just had a baby and you're thinking, who on earth could I mentor and build into? Find a teenager, find a college student, invite them over. Hopefully they will have the thought process that John and Erin do, and they'll want to build your capacity by maybe doing your dishes and babysitting your kids. So it'll benefit everybody. And God wants us to live in community, and he wants us to be encouraging and building into others, and he wants us to be built into by others. So that's living the way God has called us to do. So Joe and Lindsay and John and Erin, so fun being with you tonight. John and Erin, can't wait to meet the newest little baby. And Joe and Lindsay, where are your kids?
All in bed.
Nice.
You think the door's locked? No.
Nice. Well, they've been quiet. So next week we're going to talk about growing grateful kids. So join us next week at 8:30. And parents, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
See y'all.